Good morning, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War for inviting me to speak at this important event. I am grateful to Rotary, a global network that unites communities of various backgrounds, and to President Mr. Shekhar Mehta for your engagement on this pressing matter. The International Committee of the Red Cross has been calling for the prohibition and elimination of nuclear weapons ever since the horrific explosions in 1945 in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Their unique destructive power, their uncontrollable radioactive fallout, and the unspeakable human suffering they cause make nuclear weapons one of the most terrifying weapons ever invented. It is extremely doubtful that they could ever be used in line with international humanitarian law, the body of law that regulates conduct in armed conflict. Accepting nuclear weapons as an inevitable part of the international security architecture or as a useful tool for deterrence is an indefensible and dangerous logic. Their catastrophic humanitarian consequences make nuclear weapons a key source of insecurity for humanity as a whole. A nuclear blast in a city would cause immediate death and horrific injuries to thousands of people. Many of those who survived would die from radiation exposure days, months, or years later. No government or aid organization could provide adequate humanitarian response to such a catastrophe, especially if medical infrastructure and services were destroyed. A nuclear war would also endanger the Earth ecosystem and reduce global temperatures, thereby causing long-term damage to our planet. Indeed, the potential use of nuclear weapons threatens the very survival of humankind. Ladies and gentlemen, the entry into force of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons on 22 January this year was nothing short of a victory for humanity. It is the first universal legally binding instrument to prohibit the use, threat of use, development, testing, and stockpiling of nuclear weapons with a view to their elimination. This historic moment would not have been realized without the tireless efforts and contribution of the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement and of civil society. Together, we brought to the fore the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons, driving the international community to view them through the lens of humanity and international humanitarian law. The crucial role of civil society in the development and implementation of law and policy at the national, regional, and multinational level is indeed one of the major characteristics of contemporary humanitarian disarmament. To mention a few examples, the Anti-Personnel Landmine Convention and Convention on Cluster Munitions were in large part the result of ICRC and civil society efforts. Similarly, the landmark UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on Women, Peace and Security in 2000 was the fruit of the advocacy efforts of a coalition of 6 non-governmental organizations. Today, civil society is a key player in global governance. Not too long ago, this was perhaps utopian for many. The same is true for a world free of nuclear weapons. While we are not there yet, we have to believe that this is an achievable goal. The entry into force of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons was a major step in this direction. The next stop is nuclear disarmament. There are still more than 13,000 nuclear weapons in the world today, many of which are ready to be launched at a moment's notice. The power of many of these warheads is far greater than those dropped in 1945. Nuclear-armed states are modernizing their arsenals, which are at the same time becoming more vulnerable to cyber attacks. Against this backdrop, the risk of a deliberate or accidental nuclear detonation is unacceptably high. The total elimination of nuclear weapons is therefore an urgent humanitarian imperative. The ICRC's participation in today's event is part of this effort. Together, we can boost our call for the broadest possible adherence to the TPNW and for its universalization. We urge states that possess nuclear weapons and their allies to urgently take nuclear risk reduction measures and to implement their obligations and commitments under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. This includes taking nuclear weapons off high alert status and reducing their role in military doctrines, pending their total elimination. Two important milestones lie ahead of us: the 10th Review Conference of the NPT early next year, and the first meeting of states parties to the TPNW in spring. Both are crucial opportunities to achieve tangible progress towards nuclear disarmament and to take concrete measures to redress the harm done by nuclear weapons use and testing on people and on the environment. Guided by the testimonies of the atomic bombing survivors, the Hibakusha, whose courage and determination made the TPNW a reality, states must never lose sight of the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons and of the humanitarian, legal, and moral imperative to abolish them once and for all. The ICRC, together with our movement partners, will spare no effort until the goal of nuclear weapon-free world is achieved. I wish you a very successful and fruitful discussion, and I thank you.